everyone. I'm Missy Stakers with M. Stakers Realty Partners. And today I wanted to interview one of our agents so that you could learn a little bit more about how do you get started in real estate, and actually some really good tips from a young man that is very young, for that matter, who decided to get into real estate and has done exceptionally well. And I wanted to share him with you and what he had to say. And that would be Eric Ramos. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Missy. I appreciate it.
And if you will, tell everybody a little bit about how old you are and so forth, because I think it's important.
No, you're absolutely right. So I'm actually 22 right now. I've been practicing real estate for a total of 3 years now. Actually, as of this month, it's been 3 years. And so it's been super exciting and super fun. And I wouldn't want to do any other, be a part of any other brokerage than Missy's, to do that. So that's that.
Perfect. So one of the questions that I always like to start with is, was becoming a real estate agent as easy as you thought?
No, that's just the easy answer. I think that when I had a good expectation coming in, especially just, your advice and your wisdom telling me that, hey, literally the first 3 years are not going to be easy at all. And so because of that, it gave me that expectation that, it wasn't going to be easy. But then as I got into it, it's way not easy than that. So, my expectations were, I think compared to most, set well. I think I think people tend to come into real estate thinking the glamour of real estate and say, I'm going to make this much money and it's going to be awesome. All I got to do is open a house and that's what I do.
Yeah,
but,
and you own a Cadillac next door. All those other things.
Something like that. But unfortunately, it's not. But I think for those who really love and enjoy what they do, the grind is okay. And it's because of the love, it makes the times where it's not easy actually, I guess more disciplining enough for you to get through it. Mm-hmm. So
I also would like to ask, what are some of the things that you would tell somebody that's going to get into real estate that they need to be aware of?
Number one is that expectation, that we just spoke about, just knowing that it's not going to be easy and that it's not going to be what I would say mainstream media makes real estate out to be, especially coming in and practicing. Number two is just on top of that, if your love or your passion for real estate is not there, it's going to be sniffed out really, really easily. There's been moments where, unfortunately for me, I've, potentially slacked off, or I was not in the moment, or trying to make myself as utilizing as possible for my clients or for a situation. And unfortunately, I lose out on potential business through that. And I think that that's something that is important to always not only be stepping up your game when it comes to, for what you do and loving what you do, but doing what you love at the same time. And then I think the last thing would be education, is that education is going to be absolutely important. Being young, my experience is very minimal compared to those who've maybe been doing it for 25, 26 years, right? So I had to combat that, against maybe someone else that I'm competing, quote unquote, against with education, knowing that even though I may not have the actual age or the actual experience to say, I've been doing this for 25 years, I can at least say, my education is stacked up. That's something that I've made a huge priority for myself.
Perfect, Jess. Education is very, very important. What do you think made you successful with your clients early on? And I know you just talked about education, but what are some of the tools or things that you think helped push that forwards faster?
It was playing to my strengths, right? So instead of trying to conform to somebody that has been in the business for 25, 26 years, 30 years, however many years that is, and they have been utilizing real estate in one way, deciding that, I'm youthful, So instead of trying to play the part of someone else that's more experienced, play the part of someone that is young, not necessarily inexperienced, but young. So that means using technology as a huge advantage to me. Being active on social media. That's another part that has definitely helped in terms of playing to my suit, right? Just playing to who I am. And then on top of that, even when I'm looking for ways to prospect, not going forth and being disciplined to do the things maybe I don't want to do, but also at the same time playing to those strengths and suits that I do have. So maybe for something for social media, maybe I'm not the, oh my gosh, like you should buy this house, and I'm out here looking at these glamorous like $1 million houses, because I'm definitely not that guy. But I could sit down with you for like 30 minutes and talk about numbers and talk about like statistics, like, because that's just who I am. So playing to those suits, it gets you so much further, just not only as a person, because it's just, almost like this, it's self-identification, self-awareness of who you are, but also at the same time, you're working towards your suits and people like see that. It's not like, we live in such a world where everyone's on social media and everyone's doing things online. So it's kind of easy to see when someone's kind of fibbing,
Being fake.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so it's something to just play to your skills, play to your skill set, play to what you have been given. So I think that's been one of the biggest tools there, is knowing myself, knowing who I am, and going, okay, well, let's be disciplined with the things that I can do and the ways that I can be a more effective real estate agent for clients, but also finding a way to prospect in a unique way that's to me.
Excellent. And that's true. You've done a good job with that. What do you think is some of the most important tools we gave you or taught you to get started?
So I think the very first thing was, I have to say, the business plan is huge. I think that's it gives you this structure to like what you need to do and where you need to go from it, right? So starting with the pillars, right? The pillars are what your business in terms of prospecting is going to be from, and then working towards that from there. So if the big pillar, if one of your pillars is something like, for example, social media, it's like, okay, well, what are you going to do with social media? How are you going to do that with social media? And then breaking it all the way down to the most simplest tasks possible. Now you have an action plan, and that's a part of the business plan. So you have an action plan. It's like, okay, well, step 1, I have to do this. And then step 2, I have to do this. And then step 3, I have to do this. And so then it provides like a structure for you. It's like, okay, well, this is how things are supposed to be. Because I think that that's something that not many brokerages are going to offer. You're not going to get offered this, hey, like, let's sit down at the end of the year, look at what next year is going to look like, and look at how this year could have been better. Because those things I think are super important, and it holds accountability to that. It's like, okay, well, when Aura's like, hey, like, what's your business plan look like? And it's like, well, here's the thing. And you kind of, you're put on the spot for that. So I think that the business plan is huge, and just in general, all of the resources. From when we first began here and me practicing till now, the fact that like we're actually holding CE courses that are required for us to continue to sustain our licenses. I think that's fantastic. I think that is something that that all brokerages should do. It should be at least to the agents, a provider of least resources to elevate you better to that next level. So I think just in the combination of those two things, of the accountability, the business plan, and just resources of, being able to sustain our license and be better every single day. Have these Google classes or social media classes or videos. And so I think all of that is like super important and awesome.
Excellent. Why Mstakers Realty Partners?
So fun fact, right? When I was still in high school, as you know, and me just telling everybody, in high school, I always wanted to be a real estate agent, but I didn't know how to get there or to go where. And in reality, I just sent an email, almost shooting in the dark, to Missy saying, hey, Missy, do you have any jobs or internships or whatever? And it just so happened to be that everything kind of just worked together for that, and I got to be a runner. Now, being licensed and just having this different perspective on what it's like to be part of the brokerage compared to, being on a W-2 is that there is no one that's going to not only encourage you more, but also, like I said earlier, give you the resources to actually do well. It almost puts you in the position of the most accountability possible as an individual, because you're providing everything that someone needs to succeed. Because I mean, I've only been here. I've never been in any other brokerage. I've seen some of my friends and some of my family even start in real estate and tell me, they're like, hey, like, I don't like where I'm at. I don't get it. I'm not getting the resources, or like, I'm not being helped, or, whatever the case is, right? And so I think that that's something that is super important, because when they have that conversation with me, I can't relate. Fortunately, I can't relate. That's something that's always been something I've always been provided. And so anytime I feel like, oh man, I'm not doing a good job, I can't blame anyone but myself, which I think is a great position to be in. I prefer to blame myself than knowing like the person that I'm working with is not giving me the resources or tools that I need to succeed. It's all of my self-accountability. So if I choose to decline on Outlook a meeting for I don't know, just like, for example, video or social media, it's like, well, that's on me. That's on me, because that's me saying when I click no that I got it, I know what I'm doing. It's free. It's a free class. You just have to show up. You just got to come into the Zoom meeting. So I think that if that's the template that I have, it's like, well, why not be here, right? I mean, there's no reason for me, in my opinion, just go anywhere else. I think that there's just too much, like, just in terms of someone that's starting in real estate, someone that maybe has a couple of years and still not figuring it out, doesn't know, doesn't get it, never was trained well. This is a place to be. This is a fantastic spot to be in, where you can build this structure, this foundation. Because I think that real estate is looked at mainstream media as this very loose leaf. You can just kind of get up at 9 a.m. and you can go get your coffee, and then you go meet with your client at 1 p.m. to go look at this $1 million house, because everyone's buying $1 million houses in Texas. And so it's very unrealistic. And so I think that it just matters so much. And I'm very grateful that M. Stager's Realty Partners actually values structure over, I guess, just something that just doesn't exist.
I think that's the thing in real estate most people don't understand.
Right.
You have to create your structure.
Exactly. Because you're not a W-2. If you've ever were a W-2, you're not a W-2 anymore. You're something called the 1099. And that 1099, that's a business. You are a business now. So you're given the tools here, but it doesn't mean that you guys are going to build the business for them, right? So it's like, even though I'm here at M. Stager's Realty Partners, I'm considered an M. Stager's Realty Partners real estate agent. To the world, they just see Eric Ramos and he does real estate. So I have to build that brand in order to get anywhere, really. So,
yes. If you had some sage advice to give new and seasoned agents, what would that advice be?
It's a really good question. I think the biggest thing that I could say, it's internal, it's very deep, but just putting pride to the side, because I think that's so easy to just get caught up in yourself thinking, I can do this, I got this, there's no problems here, I'm gonna take care of this and do it my way. It's going to lead you to that place where there's no way for you to get out of wherever situation you're in. And myself included, being here, I've been in those positions, and the amount of humility that I needed to just put into myself, saying okay, no, deciding that I'm going to take, whether it's advice or whether it's resources, or just, you could name X in there, to elevate my business more, being willing on taking that and receiving gratefulness for that. So I think that's huge, especially if you're somebody, if you're an agent that can't figure it out, because there's something to it, because as difficult and as treacherous as the trail or the route of real estate is, it's in layman's terms, it's not that difficult. But at the same time, it is. It's like, well, here's what you need to do. Just go out and do it. That it's as simple as that. Just putting yourself and setting yourself to your tasks, to your resources, whatever you need to do. Just do everything in your power to find leads. Because I think that once you have nailed your education and you continue pursuing that, that's why it's called CE, continuing education. Mm-hmm. Once you continue that, it's just about structuring your prospecting. And you just who are you going to be? How are you going to do business? Where is your business going to come from? And being so laser-eyed on that.
Correct.
But the thing is that doesn't come with those who are not willing on listening, on being a listener. And I even think just dealing with clients, it's just better to be a listener. I mean, at this point, I prefer not to talk more than the other person. So if I'm talking too much, then that means there's something going on here that they're not catching. But yeah, that would be my sage advice there.
Wonderful. Well, I think you heard some amazing advice from a young man that's done very well. And I want to say thank you, Eric, for joining me. And I hope you found it helpful.